Well, here we are, another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, are you ready for a change in your living arrangements? We explore the world of homesteading. We get a little more literate financially with advice for home buyers, and we get our regular update on the Barrie Colts week. Conversations start after this. Tired of the rat race, the rushing here and there, fed up with city living, looking for a more peaceful existence? Many are turning to homesteading, getting back to the land, fending for themselves in every aspect of life. Aly Nickling Riddle and her husband have done so, setting themselves up in Mattawa. She joins us now. Let's cut to the quick. What exactly is homesteading?
You know, homesteading, I get asked that question a lot, and it really is what it means to each individual person. There's so many different variations on homesteading, but the very core of it, it is really a desire to have a simpler life where you're a little bit more self-sustainable and self-sufficient, whether it means that you're on-grid or off-grid. Most cases, people are trying to grow a little bit more of their own food and rely less on supply chains. And have a little bit more peace and quiet. Our pace of life is so fast in today's world that a lot of people are looking for an exit.
And is that what drew you to it? Just this
It absolutely
about
was.
face from craziness?
It absolutely was. Both of us had full-time jobs and come from rural backgrounds and eventually wanted to get back there. But truly, it was the pandemic that really turned the corner for us, and seeing the danger of the lack of food supplies, and just being so reliant on systems that could fail at any time.
So what did you do to prepare for all of this? Because it's a drastic about face.
It is a huge life change for most people, even if they have some experience in a rural setting. In today's world, it can be a stark change. So what we did several years of research before we even thought about buying land. And thank goodness that we did. Unfortunately, one of the reasons that I wrote this book is because a lot of people get drawn in by the Instagram romanticized version of a finished homestead and believe that it's going to be like that in their first year. And it's not. It's going to be dirty. It's going to be time consuming. Every muscle in your body is going to be sore, and you'll probably have to put off your plans once, twice, 14 times before you get to where you want to be.
So are you where you want to be at this point?
You know, we aren't. We still aren't. This will be our fourth year on our homestead with a good 3 years of planning ahead. And we had an excellent, solid plan A. We have gone past plan B, we're past plan C, and we're working on plan D right now. The biggest thing that we can share with people is that you really have to get comfortable with failure. And you really have to keep a positive viewpoint of where you're going to get to, what the accomplishment will be.
Yeah, I guess as bad as it seems right now, it's going to get better.
It always gets better. There's so much work that goes into just your infrastructure when you're building a homestead, especially if you're building it from just raw land. Sometimes you get lucky and you can buy a hobby farm that already has a lot of infrastructure in there. But, getting your water systems, your power systems, your a residence set up is going to take some time. And unfortunately, a lot of people give up before they're at that point.
Did you just have the land to start with and have to build from there?
We basically had the land to start from. We had a little bit of infrastructure put into the property, a little bit of road systems, driveways, things of that nature. But we still had to build a dwelling. We had to arrange our water systems, which was a well and water collection, and our power systems as well. We are completely 100% off-grid with solar and backup generators if there's an issue with the solar.
And how's that working out?
It works great. We have a regular, normal little cabin, regular fridge, stove, television, Starlink internet, and it works great.
And you have a lot of close relatives of the furry kind nearby.
We do. We have quite a number of creatures that enjoy our space as well. And that adds extra challenges, especially when you're talking about your gardens. If you're going to be self-reliant on a garden, you have to protect it from the deer, from the moose, from the bear, all of those things. And those are the types of things that you need to plan for in your original plan.
Yeah, you were saying before we started that you saw some moose tracks this morning.
We did. We saw some moose tracks on one of our interior roads. They like to use our way to get back over to the lake, I think.
Now, I have heard and read in the past that some people who try doing this run into obstacles with municipalities. They don't like the fact that you're off the grid. They make things difficult. Did you run into any of that?
We didn't personally run into any of that, but we have a large community of homesteaders that we communicate with, and many people have run into things like that. And that, in a lot of cases, comes from a lack of research. Once you choose an area where you'd like to possibly buy some land for homesteading, that's a crucial part of your research process. Every municipality is different. Their laws, their bylaws are different. And to ensure that you don't run into those problems, it is critical that you do your research first and make sure that you are in the right zone, that your land is zoned for agriculture, and that there aren't any permitting issues or any bylaw issues that's going to hold you back.
Now, you're growing a lot of your own food?
We do. We grow a lot of our own food. We're still a couple of years away probably from being completely self-sufficient away from grocery stores. We do a lot of fishing, hunting, and canning. So we're about 3/4 of the way there.
It's a big adjustment.
It is a huge adjustment, and it's not just an adjustment in the lifestyle itself. It's an adjustment in attitude. It's an adjustment financially. While the homesteading lifestyle does offer you a bit of a break from the costs of a modern life, it certainly doesn't give you a break from the costs of setting up your infrastructure and buying your land and building a dwelling. So all of those things need to be considered. But my book, it's not going to teach you how to homestead. It's going to help you figure out whether or not you should homestead or if you're ready to homestead.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a certain mindset that you have to be in, and you have to be ready for just about everything.
Certainly.
So what is that mindset that's there that a lot of people think they have, but very quickly find out they don't?
For us, it was a lot of resilience. Like I said, you really need to be comfortable with failure. Your systems are going to fail. Things are going to happen. Animals will get sick. And that's an ongoing situation. In our case, we try and stay positive, and we remind ourselves what our land looked like on day one, as opposed to what it looks like now, 4 years later, in the systems that we've built and our home we built ourselves. And there's a great deal of satisfaction along the way if you allow it, and not just concentrate on getting to the place where you think it'll be all done, because that's really never going to happen.
If you could go back to the beginning, what's the one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Be patient. Patience. You can't control weather. You can't control things like tornadoes that came through Mattawa and did quite a bit of damage on our land. You can't control a lot of things when you're being self-reliant. So you need to be able to step back, have some patience, and really decide before you get into this, what is your why? Each why for each person is very, very different. But if you focus on and have a solid plan for what your why is, that will help you get through the tougher times.
All of this covered in your book, Homesteading. Is it the lifestyle for you? Where can people get a hold of it?
They can get a hold of it either in ebook format or paper book format on Amazon, and they can also get it at any of their local bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelves, you can just ask and they'll order it for you from Ingram Sparks.
Big question to end things off. Are you ready for the winter?
We are. We did a little bit better this year. Each year, you underestimate how ready you need to be for the winter. And we've learned over each year what we need to do and how early we need to do it, and we're ready to go.
Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for the insight. Thanks for the advice. And we'll look forward to hearing more about your adventure down the road.
Thanks so much for having us.
On to housing on a different plane and ensuring you're ready for that financially. Many get caught off guard by the hidden costs, those beyond the selling price, the mortgage payments, and the taxes. Survey by OwnRight, a Toronto-based digital real estate law platform, found many, particularly first-time home buyers, get hit upside the head by the fine print of home ownership. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan learning more from OwnRight CEO Robert Saunders.
Robert, it is Financial Literacy Month, and looking over a survey that was done recently, everybody dreams of home ownership, but it appears by the results of the survey, a lot of people are caught off guard by, I guess it's the old saying, read the fine print. So maybe if you could elaborate by why we're seeing this.
For sure. Well, Ian, you're totally right. Homeownership is a goal and aspiration for many Canadians, and we ran our survey recently, and 97% of people told us that they felt financially ready going into their purchase. But when it came to the paperwork, that confidence really starts to drop, with 46% of people saying that they had confusion around the closing costs and what the final numbers actually ended up being. I think one of the big surprises there is just, the stark difference people have going into the transaction and what actually happens in reality. And I think, this is really coming from people not doing their research fully to better understand what, fully goes into that final closing cost picture when they're making, the largest financial investment of their life. I think a lot of people are looking at that upfront purchase price or that upfront mortgage amount, but they forget the details. And at OwnRight, we're a real estate law firm, and this is exactly what we do, is we close the transactions once an offer has been made and accepted. And we're actually the people who get to share what those additional costs are. So we have a first-hand insight into what's causing people those confusions. And I'd be happy to talk more about those. But definitely a stark difference.
Yeah, no pun intended, but is it a case of do your homework? And are you finding, is it first-time buyers or those that are already experienced, so to speak, in the market?
Yeah, I would say this is typically with first-time home buyers. You haven't been through the process. So whenever you do anything for the first time, things can come as a bit of a surprise. But surely, it's not just them. Every transaction, real estate transaction, is a little different. And so, I think in general, people can be a bit surprised. But when we did our survey, we found that 39% of people are looking at online resources to educate themselves, but only 6% actually trust those online sources. Meanwhile, 51% of them, people trust their real estate lawyers. And I think, what that's telling me is people should engage the team and their support resources earlier, because, if you have that conversation with your lawyer before you put in an offer, before you have an accepted transaction, that can really help bring a little bit more confidence and clarity to things.
Yeah, and when you talk about the internet, I mean, you hear the stories, people sourcing out health information by going to the internet, AI and what have you. So maybe is it a convenience factor that make people are using online resources instead of going to where maybe they need to be going?
100%. I think people want answers fast, and whenever you're in the process of purchasing a property or selling a property, real estate also moves fast. So I think it's just a change in expectations of how people are consuming content and educating themselves. Everyone's turning to social media, ChatGPT these days, and really just the expectation is to get answers fast. And sometimes calling your agent, your real estate agent, mortgage broker, or even real estate lawyer can feel like a really burdensome task for some people, and they don't want to bother those people. But it really can pay off to just make sure that you ease those nerves and you get reliable and accurate information, because, one of the downsides of the internet and online research is just there's so many different opinions out there. So it can always be helpful to contact, your trusted advisors. Yeah,
the real estate agent, mortgage broker, what role do they have to educate the home buyer? Or, they can't read the home buyer's mind maybe, but maybe they pick up on something that the home buyer may not know?
Yeah, for sure. I think whenever you're looking to purchase a property, it's really important to see and pick carefully who you work with. And, I would say a really solid real estate agent and mortgage broker, they're going to be the ones to tell you the things that you might not be already thinking about. So, those are things like telling you about land transfer tax. If you're buying a property in Toronto, there's actually an additional land transfer tax called municipal land transfer tax. They'll tell you about title insurance requirements, property insurance. So I think, whenever people are looking at who they want to work with to help them with that search, it's really important that you're trying to find the people who are educated themselves and can offer up some of this education proactively to you.
It kind of reminds me, I remember buying my first home, like buying my first car. You get caught up so in the emotion and the excitement. And I've been a victim here where me bad, but not digging deep enough into asking some of the questions because I was just caught up in the moment.
For sure. Yeah. It is a super emotional thing for a lot of people. You get really excited about, starting your life together. If it's your first home with your partner, or just the property, the location, it can be very easy just to sign on the dotted line and say, okay, we're going to do this. But, I do think that, if you can just take away the emotion and just really think and make sure you are prepared and have done that research, it's just going to help you feel more confident in the closing stage of the transaction, where we saw in our survey that confidence and confusion started to happen just because people, weren't educated on themselves beforehand.
Now, you indicated the findings suggest affordability isn't the only challenge, it's transparency. So how do people arrive at that transparency? Who should they be talking to? Where should they be going then for that information? And are there key points they really need to know about before, moving the home buying process, into the next stage?
So transparency is a really big thing. And again, I think it's really just picking the right partners for your journey. And if you're going to be using digital services, online tools, finding the tools that feel and look good, have been thoughtfully designed, but also are backed by a really reputable team and source. And so, a couple things, for example, at OwnRight, one of the things that we do part of our process is we have something called the client cost breakdown. And when you close on your property with OwnRight, you actually get to see the full digital view of your entire closing costs. You can see exactly where you are in the process of your transaction. And so, I think just like finding the tools and people to work with that are trying to meet you there with that transparency. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full online platform like ourselves, but, finding those real estate agents or mortgage brokers who are proactively communicating with you over email, are accessible over phone and text, those go a long way to just, helping you know where you are in the process and making it much less of a black box.
I was going to say the numbers can be overwhelming too when you're trying to do so many moving parts to the first buy.
Like I mentioned before, everyone looks at the purchase price. They look at the mortgage amount and they kind of think, okay, I'm going to have to make up the delta in terms of a down payment on my mortgage. But the reality is there's so many other costs involved that a lot of people don't understand. And, some of these costs I mentioned before as well as like land transfer tax, super important one. Whenever you're buying property in Ontario, there's a tax you have to pay to the government to actually purchase that land and to transfer from one person to another. And that can be many thousands of dollars. So if people don't understand that, that can really affect and be quite a stressful thing. But then even just, working down the list here, you've got things like property adjustments for things like property taxes or utility payments. A lot of people don't understand that when you buy a property from somebody who may have already paid the property taxes for the full year, they don't just pay the property taxes for you for the whole year. You actually have to pay them back, and it's called an adjustment for the property taxes that they've paid for the time that you actually own the property. And these can also be quite significant sums of money when you're looking at, big properties or properties in the city of Toronto where, property tax can be quite expensive. Additionally, you've got things like disbursements, which are the fees that the lawyer pays on your behalf to do things like title search costs and, all the other things that they need to do at an expense for yourself to actually close the transaction. And then also, your lender, if you're getting a mortgage, they might have certain requirements for you. And, many lenders that we see at OwnRight require that there's a title insurance policy for the lender. And again, a title insurance policy without doing that research and knowing that that's something you're going to have to pay can be many thousands of dollars. They range in terms of their price. When you take all these costs and add them up, they can be quite a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as home buyer, you look at interest rates, mortgage rates, but obviously you can't take your eye off the ball, with the other financial factors that come into play here. Obviously,
it's really important to do that research ahead of time and surround yourself with good people who can hopefully tell you about it or listen to this conversation.
And OwnRight, if they want to hop on the website and maybe get some valuable information, they can do that. What is the website?
We are at ownrights.com. And actually on our website, we have a full closing cost calculator as well as a land transfer tax calculator. So if people are wondering, what their closing costs are going to be, you can access our website and do that from there. We also have a really great resource and content hub full of blogs and valuable information for you to answer some of those questions that you might have.
Barrie Colts split their games last weekend, but still sit first in the OHL Central Division stable, 4 points better than North Bay. Let's get a full catch-up with Barrie 360's Julius Hearn and Colts analyst Gene Pereira.
All right, we'll start off, Gene. This team is 19-2-4-1. They're still second in the Eastern Conference, so they're still right up there with Brantford, and I'm sure we'll touch on them a little bit later because they've lost a couple since. But let's start with a 6-3 loss in Sudbury. Really, the penalties again were the big key for you, and I know you wrote about this. The lack of discipline again showing up. What did you notice specifically about the kinds of penalties the Colts were taking in that game?
Yeah, and obviously head coach Joe Bosco pointed it out that, again, there are difference in penalties. When you take a penalty, maybe in a play that's going to lead to a goal or a really good scoring chance, that you might haul a guy down, that type of thing. But for Barrie, they're taking penalties in offensive zones, and not the good penalties right now, and that's a bit of lack of discipline, and it's something that they have to cut out. It's hurting them. They play. One of the strengths is this 5-on-5 play of this team, and they don't tend to get outplayed when they're 5-on-5, but it really does a number to you when you rely on your specialty teams because you're marching out a lot of the same players. It takes away, it adds to their ice time, and that's going to affect you. And as well, too, it's hard to build any kind of momentum when you're constantly killing off penalties.
That was the fourth time the Colts have played Sudbury in as many weeks. Do you think there was something that played into, having played that team so frequently that led to a loss? Yeah,
look, teams, in the OHL, and I know we look at the standings and, you see one team like Sudbury that's at the bottom of the standings and so on, but these are all pretty good players, and they're players with pride. And here's Barrie coming into Sudbury again, and the Colts have won the last couple of games there, so there's a certain motivation that goes to that. And for a team, any team coming in on the road, you're going to face a desperate team on the other side. And for Barrie, if you take penalties, you're going to pay the price. And Sudbury's still got the Villanelles, the Waltons. Who are really good hockey players, and they're going to take advantage of those opportunities. And for Sudbury, I think it was just a matter of, all right, they came in, they beat us the last two times, and they're not going to do it again. And
Cation Aitchison had a couple goals in that game, but you mentioned Kieran Walton for Sudbury, and after seeing him once more in person, I guess this time against the Colts, do you still feel like he could be a strong fit on this team in terms of a hypothetical trade?
Yeah, I think Walton's going to help any team that he goes to. And again, he's just a big body, not afraid to go into those areas. And he's a key part of their specialty team, especially that power play. He's one of the guys who like to get down in the puck too on power plays. And he's just kind of one of those guys who can put the puck in the net. For Barrie, I think that when you look at the mix of what they need a forward that can put the puck in the net in a bit too. And I think Kieran Walton would be an excellent add for any team, and it'll be interesting to see. I think Sudbury is definitely going to move him. I think they're definitely going to move Nathan Villeneuve. But, from at least my view, I think he'd be a great addition to Barrie. But you can bet there's going to be a lot of OHL teams clamoring for his, to help them finish down the second half here.
Yeah, he had a couple goals in that game against Barrie, but the winner was off of an Arvin Jaswal kind of misplay at the end of the second period. How did you see that from your eyes?
Yeah, I think for Jaswal, he's been really good as a backup, and it was his first start after being off for a couple of weeks with an injury, and Barrie started him on the road in Sudbury, a place that he had played before, and I think for Arvin, what you see is his consistency. And that one, is a goal I'm sure that he'd love to have back. But I think for him, right now, he just, need to get a couple of games under the belt. And, I brought this up before, but, in talking to Dylan Smoswitz, they see the same situation with Ben Arebic. They want to give Arvin starts because they think he deserves them, that he can help the team. And, Ben Arebic and Sam Hillebrand end up stealing a lot of the work of the last year. There's no doubt Arebic's the number one goalie, but the Colts believe that he got a number one goalie down the road in Jaswell.
you give a guy like him the opening night start. I know Ben Horebeck at the time was still in NHL training camp, but I think that says a lot for the confidence that Dylan Smoskowitz and the Colts have in Jaswell. And I know that he'll bounce back from a misplay like that. Barahowski getting the winner in Sudbury. Let's move on to Saturday, because I think we saw a very different play from this team. Depth scoring was a real key. Jaden Newton got the opening goal, and then Justin Hanser got the winning goal in the third period. Pardon me. What did you notice from those bottom six guys, or even the guys on the back end like Hanser, that was really the offensive catalyst, so to speak, against Kingston?
Yeah, and good teams, you always need that depth scoring, and for Barrie, it kind of highlighted something, that down the road that I'm going to turn a bit to focus on is, we talk about World Juniors. Canada is going to probably, you're going to get Cole Bowden in the lineup, Emil Hemming, Keyshawn Aitchison. That's a big chunk of your offense that's going to be gone for a long time. And what do? You need other guys to step up, and it's that depth scoring. And, for Jaden Newton, again, he's been that kind of physical guy up front. And, the thing with him is, you look at the stat totals, and, they're not big numbers, obviously, but when he scores, they're really nice goals. And, that's the thing with Jaden this time. He caught, a bad line change by Kingston, gave him some open ice to walk into the zone. But that shot, it looked like maybe he was going to feed it across on a 2-on-1, but instead he kind of kept it and fired it short side. It was a really nice goal. And, that's the thing with Jade is, he shows flashes that when he does put the puck in the net, it's kind of highlight fashion. For Justin Hanser, again, just the second goal of his OHL career. It comes 10 days after his first. And, you're starting to see more confidence with him. And for him, I think it was finding his way last year. He kind of played a bit of forward, a bit of defense. Didn't get the consistency in the starts. Was working his way into the lineup, and this year he's taking a bigger role. And obviously you expect that defensive game out of him, but you're starting to see the confidence building offensive wise. He's starting to rush the puck up the ice. He's joining the rush. He's starting to kind of add that offensive ability to him, and he's getting more chances. And again, another pretty goal. He stepped right in from the blue line, and another great shot. And it's something that you see from Justin Hanser stepping up his game. But and it's going to be key here in December when you're going to need that secondary scoring.
Yeah, very much a goal scorer's goal for Justin Hanser to win that game. And I'd be remiss to not say that Jaden Newton goal, over 1,100 teddy bears from the teddy bear toss on Saturday, which was really cool to see. But back to Hanser here, because I know you talked to him post-game, and he said that the team was still in good spirits despite the tough loss on Friday. So what does it say about this team, and even those guys that are kind of still on the back end, not the Aitchisons or Baudouins, to be able to kind of mentally move on from a tough loss the night before and still, travel back home and get a huge win like that in a one-goal game?
Yeah, that's a sign of a good team, right? That you're able to kind of put that one aside and get right back. And, in junior hockey with, a lot of these guys the first couple of years are adjusting to a bigger schedule. They're on the ice every day with practices, and then you got games. And, one of the things is that mentality that you got to kind of put it aside, learn from what the errors were the previous game, and then and kind of move on quickly. And, Barrie was able to do that. They didn't play very well against Kingston, especially defensively. Giving up the penalties, and they were much better on Saturday against Kingston, and you could see that. I think it was more Barrie's game, another kind of low-scoring type game. They were able to play it out. They got some big stops from Ben Horebeck when they needed to, but they also, in this case, usually you see the Bowdens, Hemmings kind of lead the way offensively. They got some secondary scoring, but the key thing was just the ability to kind of turn around that quickly on back-to-back nights. Because, look, that's how kind of losing streaks, build. And they had a big one in the season here, but ever since that 6-game losing streak early in the year, they've been pretty much, a pretty good hockey club. And another sign, too, is even when they don't play the best, they're finding ways to win hockey games.
Couple other things I want to point out about that Kingston game. Barrie only had 8 penalty minutes compared to the 20 on Friday night in Sudbury, so definitely an improvement in terms of staying out of the penalty box there. Also, Ben Horebic, 33 saves. He was named goaltender of the month in the OHL, 6-0-1-1 with a 9.46 save percentage and a 1.97 goals against average. But I do want to ask you, Gene, have you noticed anything different between the way this team plays at home versus on the road so far this year?
Yeah, one of the things, like, over the last couple of years, it's almost like on the road, I think you stick more to your structure and stuff. And, it's something I kind of, over the years have talked with the coaches about, because sometimes at home, you kind of get in front of the family and the hometown friends, fans, and, on the road, you tend to stick to your structure more. But, again, at home for Barrie, they didn't, they struggled early on home ice. They had a lot of games to start the year at home, and they didn't take advantage of those. And they've been much better at home here of late. And, that's where you get kind of the majority of your wins. And then if you can kind of be above 500 on the road, you're going to be a good hockey club. So I think that's the key here is they've been much better at home here, which is a big difference. On the road, I think they tend to play their best hockey, and I think they seem to. It's just something I noticed. Obviously Friday's game in Sudbury last week wasn't a perfect example of that, but they tend to be much more structured on the road and kind of stick to it, and kind of more workmanlike. And again, if you can build a pretty solid record on the road at home on the road, you're going to be a good hockey club.
2 games on the road this week, back-to-back in Ottawa on Friday, then a rematch against Kingston on the road Saturday. This Ottawa team is above them in terms of points, but behind them in terms of the standings because Barrie's leading the division. What are you expecting in terms of those 2 back-to-back games this week, 2 tough opponents again? Yeah,
it's another great test. Ottawa's kind of gone under the radar. Obviously the focus with Brantford, for good reason. With the start that they've had, but this Ottawa team has almost been as good. And again, with Dave Cameron, they're really well-structured defensive team. They play that way. They're hard to score against. They're just responsible. And, I think the idea that Ottawa got off to a good start. You think maybe some people think they got off to a good start. They're a bit lucky and so on. Well, I think that's out the door. They've proven that this is a pretty good hockey club. And, for the Barrie Colts right now, it'll be a good test. They're going to have pretty much a full lineup. They're going to be missing Calvin Crombie, a big player, a veteran to have out. But it'll be a good test for Barrie to see just exactly where they are. And, again, this is an Ottawa team that has played really well. And I think it's going to be a good hockey game, low scoring. And, make no mistake, those 2 teams are well aware of their records and where they are, and it's a bit of a show-me game where both will be looking to kind of send a message to the other team.
And you mentioned Brantford there, so before we go, I do want to ask about the Bulldogs, because it seems that as soon as the broader hockey world kind of got on the Bulldogs bandwagon, they finally started to falter a little bit. They went their first 23 games without a loss in regulation, and now they've lost 2 of their last 3. So, maybe what does it say about a team like that, as good as they are, to, have that little faulty stretch at this point in the season, and how can the Colts see that and kind of learn from what the Bulldogs are experiencing?
Yeah, that'll serve them. Get back at them for getting Chet Luchenko in a trade and just adding to that. What an outstanding lineup! But obviously, look, the OHL, it's a long, grueling season, and you remember too that look, teams are well aware. They see that 0. You coming into the rink, and they want to knock off. They want to be the team that knocks it off. So each and every game is a battle. Look, it's a really talented Brantford team. You knew that run was going to come to an end here, but there's a focus, and for as well, like Barrie, they're going to lose a lot of players at the World Juniors here in December, so that'll be another test for them. But it's a very deep lineup for Brantford, but I think it's good. It's good for any team. A good team to go through that adversity, and you learn a lot about yourself as a team and how you respond to that.
Well, we're almost halfway through the OHL season. As you mentioned, it's a long, grueling stretch, a long way to go from here, but the Colts still leading the Central Division at 33 points through 27 games, and again, still a long way to go. Gene, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Julius.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Julius for their input, to Matt Latter for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. Don't miss an episode. You can also keep up with what Barrie's talking about on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.